down and 4. And ASU takes it away. Keith Abney.
Iowa State will get it back. Quick work by their defense after scoring the touchdown to make it one score again. And Flora, returnable punt, out of the first search. He's got space, cuts it back. There goes Flora, the walk-on with a huge play to give Iowa State the lead.
Picked off, go the other way, and Elijah Davis will not come back. 65 yards. We tried to tell you, these corners are ruthless.
Need one more out. Swung on and missed. Got him. Arizona is the 2025 Big 12 champion.
And getting rid of the ball. 10 to shoot. Nunez. Bailey Maupin for 3. And the dagger.
Bradley fires. And Houston, the Cougars, are champions here in the Big 12.
Go Big 12 or go home. I'm Brandon Shanahan, joined as always by Iowa broadcasting legend Drew Russell, live on a Wednesday night. Drew Russell, how are we doing?
Boy, Brandon Shanahan, it's been a hot minute since you and I have had an opportunity to talk, and it feels like an eternity almost, considering how much stuff has happened in the world of college athletics, in the world of the Big 12, and heck, even the world as this Iowa State fan. It has been banana land. We got college football playoffs starting tomorrow. Life is good, but sports stay incredible. I'm so excited to dig into what on earth is going on right now. Like, seriously, what's happening anymore? It feels like we're just throwing stuff at a wall. It's all sticking. It's all just cinema / a disaster.
Yeah, it's been it's been a few weeks, so we'll kind of go back in time a little bit here because a couple of big things have happened. The Big 12, football-wise at least, is going to look very different this time next year compared to where we left off on Go Big 12 or Go Home. And yeah, I want to get things started with the coaching carousel impact because I think the first big domino that fell in the Big 12, there's a couple of big dominoes. I want to start with the Iowa State hire and not firing, but Matt Campbell going to Penn State. What an interesting, and even before that, Kalani Sitake was rumored to be the guy at Penn State. Crumble Cookie steps in, of all places. Shout out Crumble Cookie. Steps in, locks him down. And then all of a sudden they hone in on Matt Campbell, and then it kind of feels like the air got squeezed out of Big 12 Twitter. It was, oh, okay, this feels a little bit more real. There's no major cookie distributor in Ames, unfortunately.
Yeah, they tried to give away a year of fresh beef to Coach Campbell and his family, but unfortunately, that's not crumble cookie money. Yeah. That's just solid Iowa ground beef, which is delicious, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you shop at your local Fairway Meat and Grocery. I will say, Brandon, I think after all these years of Matt Campbell it was a joke amongst Iowa State people that Matt Campbell was in so many coaching search rumors. Matt Campbell's going to go to this school, this school, this school. And nonstop, he continued to either deny the rumors or, he would just stay at Iowa State, never would leave. But Penn State was a different job for multiple reasons. One, it is more close to his home, no question about it, in, Ohio. So closer for him, his wife's families, that's a big deal. Two, money's still green. Last time I checked, when you get $70 million guaranteed, that's tough to turn down. And three, Penn State does have pretty extravagant resources when it comes to NIL funding, rabid fan support, all of it. I understand why he took the job. Now, there's some negatives to it as well, which we can discuss if we need to. But I don't blame Coach Campbell for taking that job even remotely. He gave Iowa State absolutely everything he had. It was 10 truly phenomenal seasons. I wish, of course, we got more. But I'll take the 10 seasons any single day, especially when I really thought he would leave at one time years ago.
Yeah.
So for Coach Campbell, just thank you. Seriously, just thank you for all the phenomenal memories of Iowa State football. I mean, you and I both have been to a bunch of Iowa State football games, Brandon. You and I we went together one way back in the day when, Connor Sally took out, Dicker the kicker in Texas. And you and I had a ball that day. Like, the countless people that they've had an impact on in a positive way for Iowa State fandom cannot be expressed enough. And he made a lot of Cyclone lives better on a regular basis. So I'll never hate Coach Campbell. I genuinely hope and wish him the best at Penn State. And hopefully he can win there. And hopefully with Coach Rogers, we can find some more wins coming up in Ames in the coming years.
Yeah, it's and we talked about this. I mean, almost weekly when it came to the coaching carousel. Like, what is Penn State realistically, have their eyes on? I mean, it's obviously not going to be Kalen DeBoer. It's not going to be Dan Lanning. It's not going to be Urban Meyer. Not going to be Marcus Freeman. So, like, then where does that leave them? And we mentioned Matt Campbell as a fit. Just one question being, would he leave? We've seen him turn down NFL gigs before. We've seen him turn down USC a few years ago. And there's this, I don't know, it's a different world that we're living in today with resources and how valuable those are. It's not just enough to have a great home stadium or have great training facilities. You got to have the dollars to back you. And unfortunately, Penn State has that a little bit more than Iowa State. And I mean, not to say that he was, tired of Iowa State, but there might have been a point where he's like, okay, I reached my ceiling here. I turned Iowa State, who's historically not a successful football program, into a regular conference championship contender. And if I don't think I have the resources to take them up a notch on top of that, then it might be time to go. Penn State, they're knocking on the door and closing the deal. And so it's heartbreaking to see as an Iowa State supporter because he did build something very special in a place I don't think a whole lot of people ever expected this to come out of Iowa State. So we'll always remember him fondly. And then they moved on quick with Coach Rogers. They announced Coach Rogers before Penn State announced their head football coach, despite Penn State having a 55-day head start on their coaching search. So very, very interesting to see how that plays out. And we were talking about it a little bit beforehand. It's interesting to see the dynamic Iowa State fans have with Pollard. There's obviously a lot of frustration. First of all, you're not selling alcohol in the stadium, and then you're complaining about not having revenue to back up this football program and to give these guys resources. But then he's also kind of a freak at finding these diamonds in a rough. He hired Fred Hoiberg. Fred Hoiberg went to the NBA, hired Coach Otz, and now they're top 5 team in the country. And he hired Matt Campbell from Toledo. And like it's one thing to be like an LSU and be like, oh, we can just give the biggest bag to whatever coach we want, and then get coaches that way. But it's a different beast when you're at Iowa State and you have to kind of do a little bit digging and find those diamonds in the rough. And we'll see what happens come this fall and the falls to follow. But I mean, he's got a track record of being a freak at this.
He does, and I mean, for Iowa State as well compared to some of these other schools, Iowa State can't afford to miss on as many coaching searches with buyouts. You're a Texas A&M, and LSU, and Alabama. A lot of those places have these giant donors that will pay tens of millions. They don't want to, obviously, but they will to get rid of their coach and move on. For an Iowa State, they have big donors too, like any school, but they don't have those, I think, numbers on their side where if a coach has a, $20 million buyout at Iowa State either is probably going to keep them for an extra year or two, and or if they were to fire that person, find a way to get that support to get the $20 million to that coach. They wouldn't be able to potentially get a big home run hire. They'd have to find, as you said, Brandon, a diamond in the rough, which they've done a great job of, but not pay as much. So making sure you get correct hires is a big deal at any school, clearly. But at Iowa State, maybe even a little bit more so because there is more limited funding at times in Cyclone Nation. Jimmy Rogers is a coach that's found a lot of success, ton of success in Brookings, South Dakota at South Dakota State, won a national championship there. Only one season in Pullman, but respectable at 6-6 for a team that does not even have a conference right now and is just trying to figure things out. So I think he's got to look at Iowa State. And it was a job he wanted. I mean, it was clear as day. In fact, he went to Jamie Pollard a few years ago and said, "How do I become the coach of Iowa State University if Matt Campbell ever leaves?" And Jamie Pollard broke it down for him over dinner. And he went out and accomplished those things. They stayed in contact pretty regularly the last few years, and kind of similar to the TJ Otzelberger move, which was done in less than 48 hours. Jamie had his guy. He had to make one call and got it done. So it will be interesting going forward how things pan out. But for Iowa State, I think they got a good hire. And to Penn State, I think they got a great hire. I really do. Expectations will be very different for Coach Campbell at Penn State. An 8-4 season will put him on the hot seat or we'll get him fired. But he's a more than capable coach, and he, again, excellent leader of young men. Mm-hmm.
Level that you think that you are, and we did all that pointing and laughing, and just for them to fall ass backwards into a really good coaching candidate stinks.
It does. There's no question about it. But that's life, Brandon Shanahan. Sometimes places that don't deserve to get good luck do, and vice versa. For Penn State, they got good luck. For Iowa State, they took a tough break. But I think they got a very good replacement on their hands. And, to bowl season. That's what I say. We got bowl games ahead. We got a lot of Big 12 great games ahead. We got a team in the college football playoff in Texas Tech, which we'll talk about in a little bit. A lot of exciting times in this conference.
Interesting stuff. Iowa State not the only team to up and their coaching staff will look at Manhattan, Kansas for making a very swift change. Chris Kleiman out. He retires after a very successful football career. And then they bring in the man in waiting, Colin Klein, former quarterback, former Texas A&M offensive coordinator this year. And this just kind of felt like a matter of when, not if.
Yeah. And a great, for Coach Kleiman, I think a situation where he just was burnt out from the current landscape of college athletics. Didn't want to, I think, coach at that rate anymore. Doesn't mean he won't get into coaching again, but maybe not at that high level. For Colin Klein, what a great fit for K-State, at least on paper, just from the historical success he had there as a player. But he's also a very legitimate offensive mind, Brandon. He has done some wonders at Texas A&M. He's done some wonders at near every single stop he's been to. As an Iowa State fan, I'm not happy at all that Colin Klein is back in the Big 12 and at a rival school. I do genuinely think he could find some serious success in Manhattan. And I could see him, if he does find success, going on a Bill Snyder type run, because he's the type of guy who absolutely would stay forever. He doesn't come across to me as a jumper. Granted, we're less than a month into his tenure. We have no idea, but in a way we do too. Colin Klein is a solid dude. All of his current players, former players love him. For Kansas State, home run hire. I mean, at least on paper. I'm not saying it'll work. There's no guarantees in life, but they got to feel good. They have to feel good.
Yeah, I think Tom Fornelli put it this way. It's a great hire. I have no idea if it's going to work out, which is how these things go. And it's interesting to see how programs have to manage the coaching carousel because, like you said, you got teams like LSU who can just go in and try to get the best coach possible, those blue blood brands. When it comes to the Big 12, it's so important to maybe not even find the best coach available, but to find the best fit. And this feels like like an unbelievable fit, and you get the best of both worlds because he's would have been a head coaching candidate here soon, anyways. Throughout college football, so you get kind of the best of both worlds there. You get a really hot coaching candidate, and it also happens to be an unbelievable fit.
Yeah. He's only 36 too,
Yeah.
Brandon. Like, he is a young dude. And I think, too, one of the underrated parts about him, he spent pretty much his entire career in Manhattan outside of the last couple of seasons down in College Station as the offensive coordinator for the Aggies. I remember when he left, I think we talked about in this podcast a little bit of how, disheartening it was to see him leave the Big 12. It did feel like a money move. And yeah, no question, he made more money as an OC at A&M compared to Kansas State. But I oftentimes say if you're in the world of business, you want to get as many experiences as you can. And I think getting that different experience outside of the Kansas State umbrella, I think will only make him even a better coach coming back home. I agree. It's a home run hire. Will it work? Who knows? I mean, seriously, the guy's young. We have no idea, but a new era on the way for Kansas State, a new era on the way for Iowa State, and both those schools paid $500,000. I'm not sure that they were willing to give up to avoid their bowl games, but they had to do what they had to do for the 2026 season. Good hire. We'll find out if it works or not.
Yeah, it is funny because as a Nebraska fan, I have a particular set of feelings on what it's like to hire a former successful quarterback as your head coach. But it is different, obviously different. And you mentioned it, just the amount of time he spent in Manhattan, and he sees what it takes to win there specifically. Doesn't have to do a whole lot of rebuilding. It doesn't sound like he's going to have a whole lot of turnover in the portal or none more than any other Big 12 team is going through. He knows what it takes to win in Manhattan. He's seen it. He's been a part of it. And now he's, gets to be the head guy. Unbelievable fit. It is.
No question about it, Brandon. Yep, no question.
It is going to be pretty jarring next year because we're not going to have Mike Gundy. We're not going to have Matt Campbell. We're not going to have Chris Kleiman. And we're not going to have Kyle Whittingham at Utah. He announced that remember these words, he's stepping down. He's not retiring. Keep an eye out on Ann Arbor. But he is stepping down from Utah. Again, another unbelievable run. Took over after Urban Meyer and has done nothing but just put together good ball teams. Won the Pac-12 a couple of times. Played in the Rose Bowl a couple of times. And step up in competition. The Big 12 hasn't been kind to Utah, but you see the vision, and it's few and far between when he puts out teams that aren't really good.
Yeah, Kyle Whittingham has done a terrific job at Utah. And just a consistent winner, Brandon. I mean, there's no question about it. Every conference. And heck, he found winning formula this year in the Big 12 in a lot of ways as well. Nice bounce back here for them there. It is jarring, though, to see how many coaches you feel like still have stuff in the tank, but are willing to retire, maybe just from burnout or just because of the current era of college athletics. I am genuinely curious if he retires if it's 10 years ago. Similar to Coach Klein.
That's true.
Like 10 years ago, maybe take away the NIL funding. Recruits, maybe they're a little more limited in their world of transferring. I am curious if these two retirements are made today or if they'd be like, no, we still got a few years left in us. Who knows? Doesn't matter. For Coach Whittingham, he's got security for life in Salt Lake City if he just wants to take a cushy advisor job, which reportedly is on the table. For $2.5-3 million a year, he just has to meet high-level donors, make them laugh, play some golf. Like, that's a pretty good gig in an area that he's made home the last 2+ decades. That's tough to turn down, Brandon. But you're right. He didn't officially retire. Who knows what coaches' end games are? This man might say, you know what, I'm going to go to Montana Tech, and I'm going to be a football coach there one day. But for Coach Whittingham, I mean, what he's done at Utah, significant impact there at that program. And for them, a big loss considering their in-state rival was able to retain their talented football coach. As you mentioned, Brandon, Crumble Cookies. I'm a big fan of Crumble Cookies.
I love Crumble Cookies.
They're really good. So I have no problem. I helped BYU, in a way, keep their coach, yet I do, because it ultimately lost our coach. But nonetheless, Tough one for Utah.
Tough one for Utah. And the other major coaching carousel in the Big 12, Eric Morris from UNT going to Oklahoma State. And we talked about it a lot with Colin Klein. Fit matters so much, probably more than like high-end upside. And Eric Morris fits both of those buckets pretty well. Outstanding success at UNT, on the verge of making the college football playoff. Turned a former high school backup quarterback into the country's leading passer,
Yep.
and Drew Mestemaker. And now at Oklahoma State, outstanding fit, deep Texas ties, outstanding development on the offensive side of the ball. Home run hire for Oklahoma State, who says goodbye to the Gundy era.
Yeah, I mean, I think for Oklahoma State, it's an excellent hire, Brandon. Again, he's a guy, we're talking about talent, diamonds in the rough earlier. He's found some diamonds in the rough at kind of every stop that he's been able to go to. Incarnate Word, you've talked about Cam Ward, him finding him kind of early on as a no-star recruit and kind of getting that college career start before eventually going to Washington State, then Miami to be the number one pick in the draft in this last year. And then you kind of look at just his background. Texas guy through and through. Majority of his career spent in Texas. But Incarnate Word and then at North Texas, he inherited two programs that were around that 500 mark. And when he left them, they were double-digit win seasons. It will be interesting to see, though, how he does going forward. Because overall as a coach, he's 46-34. And he does have, of his 7 coaching seasons, Brandon, he has 3 of those seasons, he did have losing records. So that is something that is kind of interesting to me is the minute his teams became good, he did jump ship. I don't expect that same thing to happen at Oklahoma State. But what will that leash look like? I mean, he's going to get multiple years clearly to figure this thing out. But this is a tough situation he's inheriting, but I think he's the right guy for the job.
I agree. Well, not just coaching news going on throughout the Big 12, transfer portal obviously getting kind of underway with players announcing. And first one I want to hit on, one that broke right before we hopped on, is Josh Hoover, now expected to enter the transfer portal from TCU. Outstanding career here. You heard Coach Dykes talk about how he received multi-million-dollar offers to go play in the SEC last year, decided to come back. Had a really loaded team around him, NFL talent throughout that TCU offense. Somewhat of a disappointing year, but also a bounce-back year for TCU. But they lose their key guy.
Yeah, brutal loss for TCU. Back on paper, Brandon, that was another 8-9 double-digit win season next year for TCU. Not that it still can't be, but it shows how difficult it is to win in this era of college football and how quickly the turntables can turn. And for Josh Hoover, it will be interesting to see what that interest is because it's going to be pretty significant. This will be one of the best QBs in the transfer market. And I don't know what he made at TCU last year, but I'm guessing he's going to make more money this upcoming season, more than likely at an SEC or Big Ten school, or heck, maybe it's just a simple Texas Tech for all we know, where they seem to have bags of money too. But obviously a significant loss for Coach Dykes. That's definitely not easy whatsoever.
TCU not the only team who will be looking for a new quarterback this year. UC quarterback Brendan Sorsby in the transfer portal, Sam Levitt in the transfer portal. So some of the big key guys outside of, say, Avery Johnson, and nothing announced yet for Rocco Becht. But a lot of new faces leading the Big 12 teams next year.
Yeah, Big 12 is going to have a different feel. And I mean, Sorsby, I was talking about Tech with Hoover. Sorsby definitely connected to Texas Tech for sure in that respect. We'll see how that pans out. Boy, that Levitt situation is pretty tough at Arizona State, Brandon, considering how good Arizona State's been with him at quarterback. I feel like him and Coach Dillingham get along really well. I was disheartened to hear they didn't go to his team banquet a couple of weeks ago just to support his guys, be there. He doesn't have to be, I guess, technically, but I don't know. It just different world in this era of college football. There's some great QBs out there. And the thing is, though, it's getting a bigger and bigger glut. And unless you're a top tier QB, which those are three excellent QBs, Brandon. Like, I think three QBs that will all find their footing. But for a lot of these QBs hitting the market right now, I hope they realize grass is not necessarily greener on the other side. And again, that's the risk you take in the world of the transfer market. But these guys are all losing pretty good situations, I think, at their respective schools. UC had a really respectable season last year. ASU was solid. TCU solid. Not saying they can't find more success elsewhere. I'm not saying that remotely, but I hope they realize too that they are leaving pretty stable situations.
That's always part of the conversation because I feel like if you're going to leave your current spot, you have to have eyes on something significantly better. And as a Nebraska fan with Dylan Raiola, it's hard to imagine all of these guys who are entering the transfer portal finding significantly better stops, whether that just be for money or development or competing. Like there's only so many teams like Miami and Texas Tech who kind of have a Miami, Texas Tech, Indiana who have a track record of taking these kind of 1 year guys and turning them into high end draft picks and Heisman candidates and finalists and winners. And that's by far not the norm so far. And maybe we'll see that trend change now that it's becoming more and more effective. I think Fernando Mendoza kind of being the key example of that. Because for a long time, I think either going into last year or maybe even this year, I went through out of the 4-team era in the playoffs, 0 teams won a national championship with first-year transfers. And again, I think we're starting to see that trend kind of wither down, but that's only for I think a few marquee programs, and there's only so many seats at the table.
There is, Brandon. Like last time I checked, like everybody's going to end up 500, no matter what. If you take every college football program across our collective country, we're going to be ending at 500. So for every winner, there has to be a bunch of losers too. I mean, those traditional doormats, I think that's been the biggest change in this NIL era. I mean, Indiana's the second losingest program in college football history. In 2 years, they found a way that, oh my gosh, we could pay good talent. They found lightning in a bottle with their head coach, and they've turned into a legitimate contender power just in this new era of college football. And those are the type of stories that are great. I think for fan bases more and more, what are those expectations looking like? I mean, I gotta say, this is soap. I mean, football's always been a soap opera, Brandon. It always has, but it just continues to be more and more a soap opera. It's amazing.
Yeah, but transfer portal will continue to. And we're still 2 weeks away from it actually getting open. So we're just the beginning of this ride, just the one transfer portal window. So it is now or never. So we'll continue to see how that plays out. Other big news, of course, the college football playoff getting underway this weekend, and our fresh bracket here. First time that we've gotten to hop on the show since the bracket was revealed. I know there's always a lot of talk about Notre Dame, Miami, BYU, Alabama, those 4 teams kind of at the bottom. We achieved our kind of our dream scenario outside of the Big 12 with 2 group of 5 teams getting in. Shout out Duke for winning the ACC and giving us this glorious opportunity to talk about James Madison and Tulane. So I'm hyped, but what did you think when this bracket was revealed?
Boy, I just knew that the moment pretty much that they didn't have Notre Dame in at 10, I'm like, oh gosh, they left Notre Dame out. And seeing Tulane at 11, JMU at 12, I knew it was going to be mayhem, carnage, anger out of South Bend. And that's exactly what we got. And then some. Like, even then, some of the pushback has been astonishing at times. What's fascinating about this bracket, Brandon, how open does it feel? Like, for all the frustration and anger about more teams or this or that, in large part, we're going to forget a little bit starting tomorrow. Now, if Tulane, Ole Miss, JMU, Oregon are the blowouts that are expected to be, yes, there will be more of that conversation. But I'm happy JMU's in it. I'm happy Tulane is in it. Like, I do feel, and that's one of the things I like about the 12-team playoff, more and more teams in general, I feel like, can legitimately say going into the season, hey, we've got an actual legit chance to play for a national championship. That's why I've always loved college basketball. Every team can, honest to God, every coach on the first day of practice in Division I basketball can say, you have a chance to win a national championship this year. They can if they want to. Maybe it's unrealistic for some of those lower level schools, but they can say it. They do have a road there. I think that's what makes this a lot of fun. And I haven't enjoyed some of the commentary has been disappointing in terms of, Joel Klatt's comments on the NCAA tournament was a wild world. I feel like that embodies the spirit of college athletics.
Like, do you even like sports? Like, what are we doing here?
Like, we're supposed to embrace, I think especially at the collegiate game, that chaos. Is it the most fair way to determine a champion? I've actually thought it has been a lot of ways. I think it really teaches, 18 to 22-year-olds, you learn how they play in a pressure cooker environment. Like, there's nothing like it. I mean, in my opinion. And with college football, I mean, I still think they're getting those best teams. And again, if you boy, I wish we got in. You can't lose twice. Don't lose 3 times. Like, this isn't 2 years ago where it's Florida State, a Power 4, going undefeated on paper, doing a lot of things right, or doing as much as they physically can, and a QB injury happens, they miss the playoff. Like, they had a legitimate gripe. Notre Dame lost twice. They lost twice.
Win your games.
Win your games. And you won't have to worry. Georgia didn't have to sweat. They won their games.
Yeah.
Texas Tech won. Ohio State took care of their business. None of them sweated on that day because they took care of their business. And if you take care of your business, you're going to be rewarded with a playoff spot. If you don't, you're going to sweat it, and don't be mad if you don't make it. It really is that simple. And I think that, I don't know, Notre Dame's reaction, I think, has been disappointing. I get they're frustrated. I do. But even then, it was a lot, Brandon. I don't know.
And real quick, just about Joel Klatt's take, because it's so silly. First of all, just in the nature of it and disparaging college sports and that Cinderella story. But he also specifically said, like, that's not the best way to find your champion. Yeah, it is. If you look at college basketball, there's no surprises who win the national championship. 1 seed, 1 seed, 4 seed, 1 seed, 1 seed, 1 seed, 1 seed, 1 seed, 2 seed, 1 seed. Like, the best teams, when you have a larger field, yeah, you obviously get your outliers and your Cinderella stories, which are awesome and should be celebrated. But at the end of the day, you get the champions that deserve to win the national championship. And in this format, like, it's the thing that's frustrating and the sentiment that I cannot stand is, oh, we got to get the best teams in the playoff. That's never how sports have ever worked one time. It's always been who deserves to get in more. Is the NFC South champion one of the best 8 teams in the NFC? Maybe not. Probably not. But they deserved it because they won their division. And yeah, it's maybe JMU and Tulane aren't the 2 of the top 12 teams in the country. Okay, but they're the one of the top 5 highest ranked conference champions. And the rules that were set, like, those are the teams that deserve to get in. And the fact that we're all of a sudden trying to move the goalposts to get more SEC teams in based on, Vegas odds or who would be favored on a neutral field. Well, Alabama was a 3-score favorite against Florida State at week 1, and they got their doors blown off by a team that couldn't even make a bowl game. So sports have never been about who's the best. It's who's deserving enough to get a shot, and then who deserves a championship after that. That's the whole point of the playoff, is who deserves it by winning the championship.
I agree, Brandon. And I think that still makes the regular season feel like it's somewhat matters. And that's always been my complaint. If I want to talk about college basketball complaints, my biggest complaint, honestly, is how mid majors and low majors handle their conference tournaments. Like they're going to get one bid, and some conferences do try to give their top seeds advantages, but a team can play great basketball for 2.5 months and then lose in their conference tournament. Now, again, in the NCAA tournament, that's just how it is. I think that's what makes the tournament special. But it's tough. I mean, to go 2.5 months, play great basketball in your conference, and you get upset in your conference championship tournament, that's it. You're not making the NCAA tournament. But I think that's also part of the beauty of college sports is just that unpredictability, those stories. And again, Tulane, JMU, they've got major hills to climb on Saturday. There's no question about it. No one's going to deny that. But let's say they do make it a game. I think Tulane can make it a game against Ole Miss. Ole Miss going through turmoil. I'm not saying they'll win, but gosh darn it, if it's a one possession game in the fourth quarter, this whole country is going to be rooting for Tulane, or a lot of the country. They're going to be like, "Oh my gosh, this is unbelievable! This is so entertaining." Not saying it'll happen, but I think that's what makes this new era of the playoff fun is that you do get these teams that you wouldn't normally see. Now, last year was a disaster. Some of the teams were not competitive in those lower in that first round of games, and that was disheartening. But
and it wasn't just Boise State who was uncompetitive. Like I also hate this notion that just because there are blowouts means that the system's broken. Like that's how sports always are. I mean, I know you got that magical NFL run where all the playoff games are one-score games. That's an outlier. There were blowouts in every postseason in every sport. Manageable. Tennessee got their doors blown out. Does that mean that they didn't deserve to be in? I'm not buying that.
Right. Like, I think these teams all are deserving. And that's the frustrating part. And I'm not saying Notre Dame didn't have a case. I mean, especially when you look at maybe that 9 seed specifically. I'm not fighting that they didn't have an argument. But at the end of the day, you got to win your games. You got to win your games, Brandon. And I don't have a problem with how it played out. We've got, I think, a lot of good football ahead. If we're talking about the Big 12 specifically, Texas Tech got a very interesting draw, more than likely going to see Oregon in the quarters. Winnable game. That defense is nasty. That defense is national championship worthy. It's really going to come down to how does Morton handle pressure? Can that offensive line hang in there against excellent teams in the trenches? But, man, this is exciting. What an exciting time for college football where, 3 of our top 6 seeds are not traditional powers. In the past at least, Indiana, Texas Tech, Ole Miss. Like, that's exciting for the game of college football currently. It is. And I think it's great that we'll see how they compete on Saturday. But I think it's great that Tulane and JMU get a shot. Yeah. That's just me, though.
And it's not just us who have that same criticism towards Notre Dame. Dan Lanning said very clearly, well, the teams that are crying because they didn't get in win more games. And I guess that is true. Would just like to point out BYU has the same amount of wins as Oregon. And that's where my big nitpick comes in particular because Alabama becomes the first team since 2023 to lose their conference championship game and not get penalized whatsoever. I mean, we hear the sentiment with, oh, we're not going to penalize teams for losing their conference championship games, when that's historically and objectively, factually, in every way, shape, or form been not true whatsoever. Every team that's lost their conference championship game has been docked in the rankings. Now, a lot of these not very significantly, 1 to 2, up to 5 spaces for Georgia in 2023. But then for Alabama to not get dinged a little bit is unbelievable to me. -3 rushing yards against Georgia. And this isn't a team that had a banger of a resume going in anyways. Like, yeah, they have that win against Georgia, but they got propped up because they had that stretch throughout late October and early November where they were beating ranked teams left and right. And then all those teams ended up not being very good and dropping out of the rankings. Tennessee did. Vanderbilt's still very good, but they got dinged up throughout. Like, that resume is not that great, and you can point to that big win, and that's fine. But they also got their doors blown out by a 5-win Florida State team. That would have been 4 wins if Alabama had taken care of business. And then like the gap between Alabama and BYU should not have been as big as it was, because BYU has a big win against 14-15 ranked Utah. The gap between that win and Alabama's best win does not compare to the fact that Alabama got blown out on national television by a bad team, and BYU's worst losses to the number 4 team in the country. That's the only team that they lost to. And you say win more games. I mean, my gosh, winning, what is that, 21 regular season games in 2 years? That feels like plenty to me to at least get one CFP bid. But
I would agree with you on that one, Brandon. Also, how nuts was 2023 CFP, where we had Georgia undefeated play a 1-loss Alabama team, lose in a competitive game, and drop 5 spots?
Yep. Funny how that works.
That's pretty nuts. Yeah. Yeah, they took care of Florida State,
yep.
who was dispirited. But.
Yeah. And by the way, Florida State got dinged for winning their conference championship game. They got pushed out of the playoffs after winning their conference championship game. So it's just the inconsistency.
Also true.
Blows my mind.
Yep. Everybody thought, are they going to keep the SEC out? They did not.
Of course not.
Bama found a way in.
And
there was no way.
And they didn't do anything with it anyways. They lost the first round anyways. So whoop-de-doo.
That's also true in OT to Michigan.
Yeah.
Great game.
Great
game. But by the way, that doesn't take away from the fact, Brandon, for Big 12 specifically, Texas Tech, it'll be exciting to see what they do. I mean, we got some great bowl games ahead this bowl season. Really excited about that BYU Georgia Tech game. I think that's a really fun one in Pop-Tarts.
Pop-Tarts Bowl.
Like that one's just gonna have some juice. So it will be fun to see kind of just how things pan out for them and just how things will look for the Big 12. But again, I think for Texas Tech, again, we'll preview that matchup once we get through that JMU Oregon game. But boy, if it's Oregon, Texas Tech, that is going to be a fascinating football game for a quarterfinal.
I agree. But let's get into the bowl talks. A lot of fascinating matchups with the bowl season, and we do have to put a bow on the regular season for our pick'em. He pulled it out in that last full week of Big 12 play to take the regular season crown, 348 to 344. What a year for the guy.
Boy, I need to go on a heater at the end, Brandon. My goodness, we found a way in that final week. How about those Arizona Wildcats getting that victory on the road? Rivalry week against Arizona State. And proud of my Cougars. Boy, that was a gritty road win against Baylor.
That was a good win.
But, yeah, solid stuff. What a competitive fight between you and me all season long, Brandon. And I feel honored to have the series lead again after what was a battle in year 3. And hopefully we find another road to victory next year. But gosh, this feels good to go perfect on a pretty competitive final week.
Tough week.
That's neat. There's no doubt.
Perfect week. Also, quick shout out, 9-3 season for Houston. Opportunity to get a 10th win.
How about that? Just great stuff for Coach Fritz. A lot of great stories, I think, out of the Big 12 this year. And I mean, we'll probably do kind of a recap episode where we just kind of break down beyond positive things. But man, Houston, if you take away Texas Tech's great year, I mean, that might be my team of the season, the Big 12. Like, just the story is just fantastic. What they were able to put together and achieve, considering on paper they were a bottom 3 team in the preseason in 2024. And they were, at times, the worst team in the conference at the beginning of 2024. But man, oh man, what they've been able to build over the last couple of years, persistence. Houston's, what they've done is still how you can succeed in this new era of college football.
But a fresh slate for us for a bowl season. We left off the Texas Tech game because we just don't know who they're going to be playing. So we'll recap that game once we get there. But a fresh slate nonetheless. We'll make our picks here shortly. So the same formats as usual. We'll go most confident to least confident here. We got BYU Georgia Tech in the Pop Tarts Bowl. By the way, that's going to be a banger. Because and I will defend Notre Dame just because they probably would have ended up having a bunch of opt-outs, and that kind of would have taken away from this big game. But BYU, Georgia Tech, both very excited to get this marquee game. Houston and LSU. By the way, if I would have told you that Houston was playing LSU in the postseason, how crazy would that have sounded?
Yeah. It would have been pretty. It would. I don't think I would have said, "My gosh, how bad was LSU this year?" Which they still were, but even then, like, give Houston a lot of credit because I wouldn't have said, "Oh, it's because Houston's good." It would not have been because of that.
Also got Arizona State versus the ACC champion Duke Blue Devils, Utah versus Nebraska in Kyle Whittingham's last game as a Utah Ute, Cincinnati Navy, Arizona, and Southern Methodist University. So I'll get things started here. What do we got? 7 games to pick from. 7. I'll head over to Cincinnati and Navy, and I'll take the Bearcats for a 7-point game.
Ooh, man.
Which, by the way, Cincinnati is kind of the same story as last year. They really just fell off the map in November, going 1-3, disappointing end of what was a very promising season to start off with. Back-to-back years where they can't get it done in November.
I'll tell you what, Brandon, you're not going to be happy with me, but I'm actually going to head for my 7-point game. I am heading to Las Vegas for Utah versus Nebraska, and I've got Utah for 7. Just Whittingham's last game, I think his team will show a lot of energy and just kind of emotion out there for Nebraska. Just trying to figure out a few things, especially with that quarterback situation. So that's why I'll go with that. 6-point game. Ugh. This is hard. These are some tough games to choose from. I really don't want to choose
with the transfer portal. Because, by the way, not all the quarterbacks who are entering the transfer portal are leaving right away.
Right.
So we don't know if I don't know if Brendan Sorsby's going to play. I don't know if Josh Hoover's going to play. I know Sam Levitt's not playing because he's hurt, but we don't know what that looks like.
You know what? It makes no sense because I think it'll be much closer, but here's how open it is. Give me King Crumble Cookie. Give me BYU for 6.
I like that pick quite a bit. That's a good one because BYU, we talk about teams that are going to take bowl season off and not take it very seriously and yada yada yada. BYU, not that team whatsoever.
No.
They fit that bill for a team that maybe feels like they got snubbed from the college football playoff and they're going to go out and show they deserve to be in it. So I like that pick. I won't go there quite yet, but I am eyeing that Las Vegas Bowl because here's the thing: the Nebraska inside scoop is if all else off the table, take off Kyle Whittingham, take off no Dylan Raiola for Nebraska. Nebraska finished the year so bad stopping the run, and that's what Utah. That's what their specialty is. NFL guys up front, great running game throughout the season, and Devin Dampier, who's capable of making plays down the field. It's a nightmare matchup for Nebraska. So I will take Utah here, unfortunately, for 6. The point spread keeps climbing. I think it's almost 2 touchdowns now for Utah. I do like Nebraska with the points, but it's an uphill battle to pick up a win against a very motivated, hungry Utah team. Credit to Utah. They really crawled out of the basement of the Big 12 from last year, so they very respectable showing this year, and they'll make Nebraska pay for it. After that, I think I'm going to go with Arizona taking on SMU. I like Noah Fafita. could be his final game as a Wildcat. Might go to the NFL. I guess with the transfer portal, you never know. But he's going to cap off an outstanding season. The one thing that scares me, and here's where I get in trouble betting and gambling, is I always think, okay, well, just because I lost the last 4 hands, now I'm due. Now this is definitely the hand. And it feels like SMU could be in that same boat just with the fact that they've lost, 4 or 5 straight games against the Big 12. Eventually they're going to win one of these games. I don't think it's here, but could be.
Could be.
Could be.
But I'm with you, Brandon. I also am going to take Arizona for 5. I think SMU losing a few of their coordinators, some key players in the portal. Like Arizona, I like Fafita as well, so do give me that. Despite no Brandon Sorsby for Cincinnati, I'm going to take the Bearcats for 4. Tough matchup against, I think, a Navy team that's pretty good, Brandon. I think they'll be well organized. Wouldn't stun me if Navy got this victory, but you know what? Cincinnati, I think, does have more talent. We'll see if they can scheme their way to victory.
I like it. Let's see here. And that matchup is interesting because especially against a team like Navy, even if they jump out ahead of you and muck it up and go up 10-0, 14-3, like the way that Cincinnati can throw the football, and I guess it depends on Brandon Sorsby can play, but they're never going to be out of this game with
right.
the way that they play. So I do like Cincinnati quite a bit there, just based on matchup.
Yep.
For my 4-point game, I'm going to take Arizona State over Duke, and just for the fact that I know Duke, as Darian Menso, has been unbelievable this year for the Blue Devils, but I think this is kind of one of those pivotal matchups where the Big 12 kind of flexes their muscle and kind of really shows, all right, we're actually the 3rd best conference, and this is an opportunity to make it not close.
That's I think, a unique pick. I like it a lot. Oh, man. Kills me. I'm going to take USC for 3. I cut you off, Brandon. My bad on that.
No.
But I'm going to take USC for 3. TCU with no Hoover. I don't know if they're going to have the talent needed. Granted, I think they have a better coach, but for TCU compared to USC. But I'm going to take USC.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I like USC here for 3, and I mean USC also has their transfer portal woes. They're going to see a lot of roster turnover, especially bringing in such a big recruiting class like they are. Like you're going to see a bunch of guys not there for USC, so that is what it is. But potentially without Hoover, like that's such a tough draw. Tough quarterback matchup to account for. Then for my 2-point game, I'm going to try to get some of these points back. I love BYU. I'm going to take Georgia Tech to smash on some Pop-Tarts.
It's not bad. It's a pretty good pick. I mean, we'll see where Tech's at on that too. So I think that makes a lot of sense there, Brandon. For me personally, I'm going to go 2 points. I'm going to take Arizona State. Do that for 2. And then for my 1-pointer, I'm going Houston Cougar football because I just cannot support LSU football ever. Have your corn dogs, LSU. You enjoy those.
And I'll wrap things up. This one's tough. I'm gonna stick with Houston. My gut says chase some points, but I do love how Houston's playing on the verge of a 10-win season. This bowl game is going to mean so much more to Houston than it is to LSU, so I like that, where that goes. And also, I don't know if we hopped on since Lane Kiffin, that whole saga went down. What did you make of all of that?
Yeah, I think for Ole Miss, I don't blame him for not allowing him to, coach in the CFP, considering, he went to a rival school. It's just the new era of college football. I really think, Brandon, they're going to have to find a way to, I don't know, change it all where players have to stay on their team for their entire season. That includes bowl games. That's part of the NIL deal. And then after the season fully done, no games left, no practices, no nothing. That's when you can start making that the transfer coaching changes. I don't know, Brandon. Like, there's no easy way to do it. Like, and it's not just football. There's never a good time to leave your job. Oftentimes, like, you're going to usually, if you're a coach or just you live life, like for some reason you take a new job or whatever that may be, there's never a good time to leave. There's always work to be done traditionally. But man, oh man, this is tough break for Ole Miss. I mean, those players pour their heart and soul. They're going to play with great pride. That's guaranteed. We'll see how much losing an offensive line like Lane's will impact that team.
It is pretty interesting to see because I do think you're right in the sense that it makes sense to just because he's going to a rival. I get that. But you also just see the fact that, okay, well, John Summerall continues to coach for Tulane. Eric Morris continued to coach for North Texas. Chesney's still coaching at JMU despite taking the UCLA job. And I can make peace with all of that. But then you also have the fact that, well, they're bringing back offensive coaches that Lane's taking with him to LSU. They're allowing them to come back and coach in the bowl game, but not Lane itself. To me, that felt petty, and in a way that damages the team more than anything else. But it's hard to argue against that. But it's a historic season for Ole Miss, and you do kind of hate to see it the story be other than the football, but
then that's the air of college football, Brandon. Like, these storylines aren't going to stop. Like, the absurdity is just going to continue to stay off the chains. I mean, that's how it is these days, whether we like it or not. That's how it is. But yeah, this was a pretty sloppy mess. Clearly, I think just with a coach going to a rival school in conference, a bordering state, that's just never a winning formula. But that's life. So I think when Ole Miss hired Lane, they should have known exactly who they were getting. Like, this is Lane Kiffin. This has been who he has been his whole career. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, that's who Lane is. But man, did Lane, after all these years of, I'm a change dude, learn this, felt like he did undo a healthy chunk of that within a week. But that's life. That's how it is. So.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. But that's all that I had. Any final thoughts on college football, the Big 12 hoops getting off to?
Yeah, we're gonna be digging into college Big 12 hoops. We'll kind of have some more stuff coming up for you next week on that. But boy, what a time for Big 12 hoops. There's some great teams in conference. The freshman classes are off the rails. BYU, Iowa State, Arizona's been incredible so far in this young season. Houston's tough again. Kansas still finding their footing. But man, Brandon, it's not a secret. Big 12 hoops has been a lot of fun for a lot of years. This year, I don't anticipate it to be any different.